Cavaliers. What a great shot to advance to the conference finals. Donovan Mitchell, between the legs, step back, over Tobias Harris. 3 of his 26 in the game as Cleveland walks into Detroit's house and wins 125-94 in Game 7. Their first appearance in the conference finals since 2018 when LeBron James was leading the way. How about Jared Allen? The lights were not too bright for him. 23 and 7. Sam Merrill off the bench with 23. How about Evan Mobley with 21, 12 and 6? And the Pistons they ran out of gas, okay? They shot 35% from the field, 31% from three-point land. And Cade Cunningham, he was great for most of the series, postseason, but just 13 points on 5 of 16 shooting in this one. Time now to bring in CBS Sports NBA analysts John Gonzalez and Noah Bono for a recap of Game 7 between the Pistons and Cavs. And, y'all, this was the definition of walk in your trap, take over your trap, okay? Cavaliers just doing whatever they wanted to, John. How stunned are you, though, the way they obliterated Detroit on the road in a Game 7 when Detroit's the 1 seed?
Yeah, obliterated is the right word. I mean, this was so in hand, I was half expecting Ant Edwards to come out there in the fourth quarter and congratulate the Cavs, right? I mean, the Cavaliers go from not being able to win a game on the road the entire postseason to winning Game 5 and Game 7 in Detroit. So credit to the Cavs. We can get to the Pistons in a little bit, but Donovan Mitchell especially, right? Massive game for him. I mean, his entire career, all he's heard is, when's he going to get to the conference finals? Why can't he lead his team to the conference finals? What's it going to take for him to get to the conference finals? Well, tonight, spectacular game. Goes for 26.7 rebounds, 8 assists. And here's the big one. No turnovers. That was huge. The Cavaliers had major problems with their turnover issues in this series and in the postseason. Well, tonight they got that under control. And the general recipe for them beyond Donovan Mitchell cooking is 3 of their 4 main guys have to be good. Well, that's what happened tonight. Donovan Mitchell was really good. And then the 2 bigs were fantastic. Both Evan Mobley and Jared Allen absolutely dominated the Pistons down low. The Pistons, their whole thing is dominating other teams down low. Well, tonight it was the Cavs. And no, James Harden did not have a good night tonight. And we can get into that. I'm sure some people who love to hate on James Harden will get all over him for it. But they didn't need him tonight because the other 3 guys were so good. And they jumped all over the Pistons right from the opening tip. So the Cavaliers deserving to move on. And the Pistons are going to be kicking themselves because they could have won Game 3. They should have won Game 5. And then they absolutely no-showed in Game 7.
John said it all, man. I really agree with just about everything. And I think James Harden probably owes the biggest thank you to those other 3 stars on Cleveland for bailing him out of a 2-for-10 game where he had 9 points. 4 personal fouls just was another no-show. And the fact that Sam Merrill and Jared Allen, a guy that Jared Allen's had some really strong postseason games this year, and he's had some other moments where you haven't heard from him, single-digit games, but he was big in Game 7 versus Toronto. He was massive tonight. Sam Merrill having 23 points and 5 made three-pointers on the road. Normally, we don't see role players play this well on the road, but it was Sam Merrill tonight in Detroit. It was Max Strus with 6 3-pointers in Game 5 in Detroit. Like, I don't want to harp on the Pistons too much because they are sort of offensively inept, but they should be ashamed of themselves for dropping this game after playing so well on the road in a Game 6, stifled that Cleveland offense. Like, couldn't have played a better defensive game. All that energy just died off coming into this Game 7, and it's unfortunate because they're now one of 4 60-win teams going back to 2015 that won 60 games and was a 1 seed that wasn't able to advance to the conference finals. And, it's unfortunate. I do think there's a lot of holes in this roster, especially when you see how much of a drop-off you get from Jalen Duren, your second All-Star, and just how much he struggled, not just in this series, but the entirety of these 14 playoff games for Detroit. It's unfortunate that their season ended the way it did, but ultimately, Cade Cunningham can't do it all, and you saw he was absolutely gassed. He ran out of complete steam. There was nothing left in the tank there. And when Duncan Robinson looks like your best player in a Game 7 for a small chunk of it, you know you're in trouble. But good job by the Cavaliers. I mean, they came out with more energy, more juice, and John said it. When 3 of those 4 guys in Cleveland play this well, they're pretty hard to beat, especially versus a Detroit team that struggles this much offensively.
Yeah, Cavaliers, I mean, the ball movement, the defensive intensity, everything was so disciplined for this team, allowing them to get this win. As we see here, Cade Cunningham, a struggle in this home game against the Cavaliers, just 31% shooting. And, you know, Noah, John touched on it earlier about the questions surrounding Donovan Mitchell. Okay, can you make it to the conference finals? Can you lead your team? What does it mean for Mitchell to make the conference finals for the first time in his career after 9 years in the league?
Well, you know, Chris, now that he made it, I don't really think it means anything. It's what do you want, a badge of honor? It's like, what, you want to wear that as a moniker on your chest? Like, I've made it to the conference finals. Whoop-de-doo. Like, it took them 9 years. They were the 1 seed last year, 60 wins. You get bounced in 5 games to the Indiana Pacers. It's great for him to get the monkey off his back, but like Damian Lillard had the same thing when he went to the conference finals with the Trailblazers in 2019. Oh, Dame finally got to the 3rd round of the playoffs. It's not a championship. Yeah, it's one of those, like, you know, we look at Joel Embiid as the only MVP in NBA history to not reach a conference finals. But like, if they don't beat the Knicks and get to the NBA finals, well, it is what it is. They're not going to have the same team next year, assuming they don't get to the finals. They're not going to re-sign James Harden. I'm not trying to be pessimistic and negative about this, but it's one of those stepping stones in a player's career that we like use as a benchmark of like, well, how many big playoff runs has he gone on? And it's taken Donovan Mitchell, which basketball is a team sport, so I always hate equating it to just one guy. But as the lead guy on a team, he finally has made it to the conference final. So yes, congratulations to him. But ultimately, this is not the goal, so it doesn't really matter. It's not going to go on his resume. One-time conference finals appearance. It just doesn't matter. So what matters is, can he beat the New York Knicks and be, you know, healthy throughout a 6-7 game series that's going to be a lot more rugged than this one was. And yeah, again, I don't want to be negative about it, but I just think that, like, you got over the hump. Now it's time to really get down to business. You're in the Final Four. Can you make the NBA Finals or not?
Yeah, Joel Embiid and the Sixers have been home on summer vacation for what feels like forever, and they're just still catching strays. So credit to Noah on that one. But he's right, because like a guy like Joel Embiid would love to make it to the conference finals. Now Donovan Mitchell has made it, and what does that really get you? Not much. Now the hard work starts. Noah's absolutely right about that. It's a benchmark for Donovan Mitchell to clear, but now you have a chance to play the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. First time that the Cavs have been in the Eastern Conference Finals since 2018. And this is when you really got to go to work, right? I mean, look, full credit to Donovan Mitchell for showing up in Game 7. That was step one. Now the next steps happen, right? You got to get right back on a plane, go to New York against a Knicks team that's playing its best basketball. Now they've been off for a while. By the time they get around to playing, they'll have been off for longer than the All-Star break last, so there could be some rust there. But yes, Donovan Mitchell needs to repeat these performances. There was some uneven play, right? I mean, again, in Game 6, Asar Thompson absolutely shut him down. Donovan Mitchell answered the bell in Game 7. Now let's see what he does against OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges once that series starts in New York.
Now, that's very well said there, John. Let's go to the Pistons, though, because they were the 1 seed in the East. They won 60 games. Jalen Duren is set to become an unrestricted free agent, and you know he wants to cash in, even though he had a postseason to forget. So what is priority number 1 for Detroit this offseason in your eyes?
Well, their priority was at the trade deadline, add some more shooting and some secondary playmaking for Cade Cunningham. They didn't do that, so that's going to be a problem. But you mentioned Jalen Duren, and I'm glad you called him out. He was an all-star this season. Last offseason, he bet on himself. He wanted a big payday. The Pistons said no. Then he has a monster regular season, and it's like, okay, this kid could potentially make All-NBA. We'll see whether or not he does, but he's headed for a big payday. And then he basically no-shows in the playoffs. Had a great Game 7 against the Magic, and then he had a really good Game 6 against the Cavs. And other than that, he was terrible. Tonight in Game 7, he had as many turnovers as he had field goals made. That just cannot happen. Now, he wasn't the only player for the Pistons not to play well tonight. Cade Cunningham obviously didn't have a great game. As Noah said, he was really gassed. Tobias Harris, who had a great postseason overall, the last 3 games, not great. And tonight, he didn't make a field goal, not a single field goal in a Game 7 that is a do-or-die, win-or-go-home. That is inexcusable. Asar Thompson, he's fantastic, but can't make a bucket and wasn't good defensively tonight either. So now all of a sudden, your best players tonight were Duncan Robinson and Danis Jenkins. That's a problem. So Trajan Langdon, president of basketball ops in Detroit, he's a really smart guy. He knows all the stuff that we're saying right now, right? It's evident to everybody that the Pistons aren't